So, two things immediately come to mind when you say rats in conjunction with magic. And that's Rat Colony and Relentless Rats. Obviously, Rat Colony is much flimsier than Relentless Rats, with a buff only to its attack, but I do think it's better choice overall. Not only does it allow other rats to buff them, but it's a whole mana cheaper, and that is not to be underestimated when you're trying to flood the board with as many rats as possible. Furthermore, it is going to allow more variety into the deck. And what's the point in building Rat Tribal if you don't get to play this card? Or this card? Or this card? Okay, well, maybe not these cards. But trust me, there are actually good rats. Like these, who can all be used as rat commanders in their own right. Ashcoat is going to buff and recur your rats. Maronora, Maronora, is going to make a bunch of rat tokens and give them much needed evasion. And Nashi is just a fun commander card. The power level of the card is reliant on the power level of your opponent's decks, which is a fair way to be tricksy and steal their resources. Although, I do have a confession to make. I realised when I started building this deck that, unfortunately, it wasn't going to be a budget deck. For starters, the base of our deck, the Rat Colony, it's currently sitting pretty at $4 each. And Ashcoat? Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, obviously, you might want to swap out some of these cards for cheaper rats. It can be done. Simply changing your Rat Colony for Relentless Rats will cut your spending in half. I thought I'd just mention this little caveat. But let's get on with the rest of the deck. Pack Rats is just like Rat Colony, but its toughness gets buffed, and you can copy it. Yes to that repeatable effect, please. The thing about rats is they can be nefarious little creatures, sometimes doing some shady things to your opponents, like forcing them to discard or even reducing their hand size. Just be aware that people will not take kindly to these things, and you may become a target. So these are not must-haves. It just depends on how mean you want to be, and I'd like to be a little mean. So I'm adding my favourite little darling, Burglar Rat, Rotting Rats, Gnat Miser, Locust Miser, and Stronghold Rats. At the point I'm recording this, it's still unclear if Toxic and Infect do in fact stack. We'll get clarification around release. I wasn't sure if Infect was a replacement effect, and therefore didn't trigger Toxic. But if you read the wording of Infect, it says the creature deals damage in the form of poison counters. So technically the creature does still deal damage to the player with Infect, so Toxic should trigger. And in addition to the Infect damage, they'll receive poison counters equal to their Toxic characteristic. But even if it didn't stack, Ichor Rats still gives each player a poison counter with an ETB, so it's still worth it IMO. Which brings us on to my next favourite little critters. Small little rats with inbuilt evasion. Of course, it's nice to have some big old rat colonies running around, but what we're really interested in is the Toxic 1 that our commander is giving. It doesn't matter how small each rat is, if it can deal damage. It'll get those poison counters out there. I also want to keep my mana curve super low so I can pump out as many rats as I can each turn. I've put 4 of these guys in. There are also some non-rats that are going to be great in this deck. I know he seems to end up everywhere, but it's undeniable how good Mikaeus is in this deck. Your rats are going to be super annoying if they keep coming back. Piper of the Swarm, Ogre Slumlord, and Chittering Witch are all non-rat rat lovers, and auto includes in this deck. Ayara is going to be a great card draw engine, with the added bonus of a drain effect. We should be having lots of little bodies filling the board, and if attacking isn't an option, let's drain everyone out instead. Bontu's Monument would give us the same effect, and help us with ramp. Haunted One is so good for this deck. You're not going to want to swing in with Karumonix most of the time, because we need him to stay on the board. But this enchantment gives Undying to both him and all his rat buds. And the added +2 to attack across your whole board is such a devastating effect for just 3 mana. I added some graveyard recursion, because our rats will probably be dying quite often. We want to be relentless. Of course, we need some ramp, so I went for your standard, boring black ramp cards. What can I say? They're good. And some monocolor and tribal staples here. We also need card draw. So let's add Species Specialist, Village Rites, Plumb the Forbidden, Read the Bones, Sign in Blood, Ancient Craving, Deadly Dispute, and Altar's Reap. Now for some targeted removal. With black, you've got a lot to choose from, but I went for Infernal Grasp, Victim of Night, Go for the Throat, Feed the Swarm, Devour in Shadow, Tragic Slip, and just in case you're desperate to get something that's not a creature, Scour from Existence. I've put in 3 board wipes, Mutilate, which scales with the game, and In Garrick's Wake, which can be seen as a finisher, allowing you to clear the board and swing in with your rat horde, and this beauty. Because I can't pass up having a board wipe on a rat body. I've also included a few cards to help with evasion, which will hopefully allow you to get all your creatures through for damage. We're looking for things that will affect all your creatures, because each rat will only give 1 poison counter with their toxic ability, even if they're pumped in size. So it's best to focus on a go-wide strategy. I chose Predator's Hour and Dirge of Dread. Having said that, there's no harm in putting in a Rogue's Passage for a land slot, just in case that 1 extra poison counter is all you need. And why not add some other lands? Okay, that's it. That's rats. I wish this could be a budget deck. I really do. But this is what always happens with tribes that are supported but not ever reprinted. People want to build these niche tribes, especially when a cool commander like this gives us the ability to do so. But then you have to get your hands on 30 rat colonies, and now all the commons in your deck are $4. There are a few pricey cards in this deck that if you took them out you'd be saving yourself at least $100. And if your commander friends will allow it, maybe you can proxy your rat colonies? Let me know in the comments below if you're building this commander. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty stoked for Phyrexia. Don't forget to give me a like if you like this deck tech, and subscribe for more in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.